Okay, thank you. Okay, a few more coming in. Okay, let's get started. Well, first of all, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all. Not welcome to your own country nonsense. That is not necessary, and it really is an insult. It's like someone standing in the front door of your house and saying, welcome to your own house. It's just not right. But however, welcome to an enlightening and motivating night where we hope to activate the movement. But we've got to get this movement. Look at you guys here. Praise God you're here. And it just shows that there is a lot of support. And we need this movement so that we can get Labor and the lunatic lefties out. But look, as horrid as things are, we must realise that we're not the first people who have been like this. We think back to the Bible, we think of Esther, right? We think that from her came the saying, and as you all know this, we are here for such a time as this, okay? There's no mistake that we are here because God put us here. And if we don't stand up to this rubbish, there is a lot at stake. God is counting on us. And as well as that, our children are counting on us. I don't see many young people here, and that's really disappointing. We've got to get these young people The Great Head Army, we can only do so much, but we're here for your sake. Welcome to the wonderful party people that are here, as in the political party people. You'll be hearing more about them. Actually, before we get on to that, let's do something that's not done very much because it's been banned in so many places. Would we please sing our national anthem? Stand up and give it some honour. Because it is so important. It brings me to tears now. It's ridiculous.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth of toil. Our home is earth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty.
I'd like to welcome the wonderful representatives from the political parties who are here tonight. Thank you for being here to help our desperate cause. And this is indeed a desperate cause. I pray that a spirit of unity will prevail tonight and going forward as we fight this horrible war of our lives. It really is. As it says in Ephesians, we do not war against flesh and blood. You know, we're not fighting the members of the Liberal or the Labor Party, sorry. We war against evil spirits who are ruling them. You know, they're ruling big time. These people don't realise that what they're doing is destroying everything that we love about Australia. Unity will be critical. You know, we need Liberals. We need One Nation. We need family. We need them to work together. If we hope to win back our beautiful country and preserve it for ourselves, our children and our grandkids. As a teacher, I see the rising populations of migrants and their children. In 4 years from now, it will be impossible for any result than a Labor win. You know why? Because the immigrants are being told to vote Labor. They are the government that took them into this country. They're given a gum tree and a how to vote Labor card. That's what happens. So, and now they're children, and they're not increasing at 2 or 4 like our families. There's no Muslim family that I know that doesn't have 5, 6 or 7 children. So by sheer numbers, guys, we are looking at a losing battle. Just by sheer numbers, okay? Most Muslim families have 4 to 6 children. With our reduced population growth, many of our kids don't want to get married. Even ones that do get married, 1 or 2 kids max. We all know the path of destruction this has led to in England, Germany, and even in America. If we do not act strongly, our grandchildren will be living under Sharia law. No mistake about that. It's taking over in many parts of the world. They'll be eating halal foods and they will be wearing head and face coverings. Many countries, you think this can't happen, and yet you look at pictures of them 20 years ago and they were wearing beautiful, colourful clothing. Now they're all wearing garbage bags, is what I call them. So black garbage bags. Shocking. We're now going to watch a video of Turning Point Australia, who are the main organisers that have brought this show to Melbourne. So let's have a look at Turning Point Australia.
With 2025 well and truly behind us, I thought we should take this opportunity to look back on the last 4 years of Turning Point Australia's life. What did we nail? What could we learn from? And where are we going in the coming years to ensure that we truly get Australia back on that? My name is Jamal. I'm the head of Turning Point Australia, and I was trusted with this brand thanks to Charlie Kirk and Nigel Farage. When I look at Australia over the last few years, the thing that rings true is some words from my father in quoting the Bible. He would say, "My people suffer because of their lack of knowledge." He'd also say, "He who much has been given, much will be expected." I see that I've been given a lot of opportunities in my life, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to lead Turning Point Australia over the last 4 years. When I see what is going wrong in Australia, people are suffering because of their lack of knowledge. They don't know how to breathe their values of Christianity, conservatism, into politics. And that's where we've come in. Over the last few years, we've nailed it with regards to online views. We crossed the 1 billion view mark over the last 4 years in October. Last year, in 2025, we had our highest viewed year of 220 million views. Additionally, when I look back at our election content, we crossed over 250,000 How to Vote card downloads in our 2025 federal election. And we're the only organisation in the country, on the left or the right, that fights local, state and federal elections as well as referendums. I was shocked when we heard that, because all politics is local. You'd think that that would be where a lot of third-party campaigners would focus their energy, their funding, their attention. Turns out Turning Point Australia is the only organisation that does that. And that's thanks to the amazing team I work with and the capability we have and the supporters that give us the ammunition to do that. Additionally, we came into ownership of the Light Australia newspaper early last year in 2024, which has allowed us to tap into printed press and keep that paper alive. They just recently crossed 3 million prints physically. This is a physical paper if you weren't aware. And this year is going to be a very big year for expansion for that paper. Additionally, the ARC studio, which you can see I'm in right now, wasn't cheap, but it's very much been warranted with regards to how many views we've been getting over the last few years. So I'm very excited with what we've done and where we're going, and we very much stuck our flag in the ground and said, here we are, We are here to teach people about how to breathe their values into politics. Now, moving ahead, it's not enough. It is not enough to get Australia back on track. That much is clear. Often when I'm not sure what we should be doing that's more, I often look at the left. The left have been kicking our ass for a number of years, forgive me saying. Whether it's Get Up, whether it's some of the political parties like the Teals and the Greens with their ground game, we've got a lot to learn from these political parties and political organisations on the left, including their lobby groups. When I look at the last few years and where we've needed to improve, the biggest thing that I've seen is the capacity. How do you improve your capacity? It's funding. This is not something I ordinarily like talking about, but funding seems to be often the difference between the left and the right in delivering an outcome. If there's one thing I've learned over the last few years, especially from one of the last bits of advice my dad gave me, it was that money amplifies character. He who can be trusted with a little can be trusted with much. When I see what we've been trusted with over the last 4 years, I know we can do more. I know we have the people. The problem is a lot of these capable people, rightly so, working in the private sector where they're valued. That's where funding comes in. That allows us to build our capacity and truly mobilise the troops. What we're missing on the right side of politics is a mustering of the troops on the right. This is very much the philosophy of Charlie Kirk. This is very much what he did for President Trump in winning the swing states, the 7 swing states in the US election in 2024. This is partly why a lot of parliamentarians or members of Congress in the US are missing Charlie, because he knew how to actually see what the linchpin was, where we needed to fix things, and they addressed it. That's exactly what the problem is in Australia. When I've showed our projects to the US, they're gobsmacked. They think the How to Vote card is an amazing invention, uniquely fitted for the Australian audience and Australian political situation. We've taken Charlie's philosophy and we've been applying it the last 4 years, and as we've grown, our notoriety among our enemies on the left has grown as well. But when I look at moving ahead, I really want to take things to the next level. And that's where the funding comes in. I encourage you to look through the strategic overview. I think you'll be shocked with how much we've achieved that perhaps I don't mention in my videos, but also where we want to go moving ahead. I want some more permanent staff with Turning Point. I would like to set up state chapters in every state that are well financed. I would like to continue setting up university chapters in all the states, starting in South Australia. I would also like to take the Light Australia newspaper to the next level. I want to be setting the tone and setting the news. I want investigative journalists going out and getting news and setting the agenda for the week for the politicians. I want the politicians dancing to our tune. We need to wrestle this off the corporate newspapers and the corporate press, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10. I know we can do it because we've already been doing it. If there's one thing I've learned about funding is that a lot of funding can cover the inadequacies of a bad idea. But if you've had no funding for some years now and you come into funding, we've seen it amplify good ideas. And that's exactly what this report goes through. I encourage you to read it cover to cover. I encourage you to let me know if you have any questions. I'm looking forward to partnering with you in making sure that we can stick to Charlie Kirk's vision, that we help people breathe their values into politics, and we get this amazing, beautiful nation called Australia back on track. I want to thank you so much. God bless you, and I'll see you later.
So the last person I need to welcome tonight is our fabulous host, Joel, who has come all the way from Sydney to help us save our sorry state. As young as he is, not even 30 years old, there's somewhere in the Bible that says, don't despise his youth, right? We want young people. He knows more about politics than most 60-year-olds. His passion and dedication to the cause of saving Australia is amazing. I only rang him 3 weeks ago, right? This didn't take long for him to get here, and we have a full house. Thank you, and God bless you for coming. And I'd just like to invite Joel to the stage now.
Thank you so much, Peterine. This event would not have happened without Peterine. She helped me back in the COVID days when we were doing the last election 4 years ago. I can't believe we're already back at an election again. But guys, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you coming out, because I'm a New South Welshman. I'm not meant to be here. I'm meant to be in New South Wales, getting ready for our election in March. But the reason I'm here is because in our audience, there's about 30 to 35% of our audience that are here. And during the federal election, we had roughly 118,000 people from Victoria use our How to Vote cards. And for those of you that don't know, that's roughly 2 to 3% of the voters in this state. And so when I look at what's going on in this state, I feel like I've got a constituency, but I'm not a party. We've been trauma bonded through the COVID years, and it feels bad saying it, but that's the truth. We've been through a lot. We're very much family in a way, especially when you consider a lot of people have lost their family from the COVID years. But let me just start off by telling you a little bit about myself. I've got to be honest with you, it's weird for me to watch that video. It's very weird. I'm not a politician. I'm not from political consulting or anything. I'm actually from construction. I lost my job in 2020 due to the lockdowns in New South Wales, and I sort of built a bit of an affinity with people that were in a similar position. And what we found during COVID was a lot of people losing their jobs, not being able to get medical access. My dad was one of those people. Unfortunately, he lost his life in September of 2020 because he couldn't get the cancer treatment he needed to survive. He was getting cancer treatment in Mexico. And my story isn't unique in that sense. A lot of people were in that situation. And so I lost my job in construction. That job's been totally burnt. And I'm just looking, who do I blame? Who do I go after? How can I help breathe our values into politics and stop this from happening? And that is what I've been doing for the last 7 years now. I can't believe it's been 7 years since mid-2020, but that's where we are. And I very much wanted to talk to you guys about what I've been doing. Again, forgive the self-aggrandizement. I personally feel weird doing it, but it was my COO, Soraya Berrick. She said, Joel, you got to tell people what you've been doing, because I didn't know you did all this stuff. And she forced me to sit down and put together the strategic review, which we're going to send all of you at the end of this. It goes through everything that we've done and we're going to be doing. And I wanted you guys to see exactly what we can do to get this country back on track. And we're not going to do it in one election. This is like a 5-year project. Turning Point Australia is here to stay. Charlie Kirk trusted me with the keys. He trusted me to help Christians, help conservatives and libertarians to breathe their values into politics. And that's exactly what we're going to keep on doing. We're coming up on 1 year since Charlie Kirk passed. And I think it's important to reflect on what he got right. This is a great Christian man that understood what he believed, and he understood how to help people breathe their values into politics. What he specifically did was, under an organization called Turning Point Action, he went after what was called low propensity voters in the USA. He went after people that, out of 4 election opportunities, including state and federal, low propensity voters would only show up to 1 or less elections. Because in America, they don't have compulsory voting. If you can get more people out to vote and get them registered, you win. That's how it is over there. In Australia, we don't have that problem. We've got mandatory voting. We still have roughly 15% of people that don't turn up and vote. But the task that we have in front of us is very different. It's about preference discipline. It's about working together with minor right parties and major right parties, we've got 2 of them now, to work together. And that's very much why I've dragged you out on a night like this. I've dragged you out to see the Liberal Party, to see One Nation, to see Familv First, and to see the Libertarian Party tonight. And what a government would look like, because let's be honest, I believe it's going to be a coalition between them in the lower house and the upper house. What does a government look like for that? Now, before we get there, and can everyone hear me up the back? Is it coming through crystal clear? Good? Beautiful, beautiful. What I would like to start off talking about is the problem. Now, as I said in the video, if I ever want to know what I should be doing on said day, look at the left. They've done a pretty good job, haven't they? Ruining Australia. How did they do it? Because I personally don't have a very high opinion of these people. How did they manage to wrestle the government of Australia, the unions of Australia, the universities, the schools, culture, social media. It's through this thing called the Long March of Institutions. Now, I'm not going to bore you. I'm not going to bore you with the philosophy of that, so at ease. But what is it they're doing specifically at elections that we're not doing yet, and we really ought to be doing? They're organising. I just saw an article today in the Australian newspaper that GetUp are going to be funding over $600,000 in this state election to basically sandbag a lot of Labor seats and to make sure the Liberals and One Nation don't get those seats. They're doing it by having hundreds of volunteers. They're door knocking. They are basically going to be at train stations. They're going to be handing out pamphlets, and they're going to be evangelising and getting the word out about socialism. The Socialist Party are on the move. They're going after the Green seats. In case you didn't think the Greens were woke enough, they are going after the Green seats. The Green seats in inner city Melbourne, the seats are Melbourne, Brunswick and Richmond. They're going after these 3 seats, and if you think the Parliament's bad now, add 3 socialists in there, it can get worse. So I feel sorry for Warren and the others that are about to go into the Parliament. They are training hundreds, in fact thousands of volunteers to door knock, to hand out how to vote cards in early voting, on election day. And don't think in your mind that we have gathered here today to preach to the converted. You guys are switched on, I can tell. You sang the anthem like you meant it. You are fishers of men. You are fishers of men to go out there. You are the Spartan warriors of our movement. If everyone here brought 2 to 3 people, we would have well over 1,000 to 2,000 people. That's amazing. That's seat-winning stuff. You don't understand your power in this area, and I'm here to help show you how you can breathe your values into politics. Just a few things before we go any further. I just wanted to show you some of the... oh, and by the way, there will be a Q&A section. Please scan this code. I'll flip it up every few slides so you can see it. Again, we don't keep the data, so at ease. I want you to ask questions for the panel and upvote whichever question you like. You can vote on there and whichever one you like. And please, when you do it, please put your name, because I will actually invite you. I'll give you the mic, and I'd love to actually capture you saying that if you're willing to do that. And again, thank you to Sky News for sending a camera coming here. Sorry, News 24, that's right, Alex. Thanks, News 24, I'm still adjusting to that. And when we get to the Q&A, we'll cover that. But let me get through just a few slides about the projects we're covering and what we're going to be doing this election to help these great right-wing parties that we've got in this state. So just firstly, over the last year, Turning Point Australia, as I mentioned, we got 220 million views online. This year, we're set to exceed that. On our Facebook page alone, we've already got 160 million views online. This is insane. But why aren't we seeing that conversion in volunteers? And that's what we're really here to address. The other thing is we've also got in terms of the how to vote cards, we had anywhere from about 250,000 to 400,000 how to vote cards. A lot of people, they go to our website to ask us how to vote. They screenshot what they get and then they share it in their group chat for the family of 6 to 10 people. And so it ends up being about 400,000 people used our how to vote cards, and specifically in this state, 118,000 people. That's a lot of people. That's about 1 in 50 Victorians using the card. And I do notice that when I'm walking the streets, a lot of people do come up to me, maybe not as much as Pauline, but it's been quite positive. But moving on, enough about me, enough about me. What do the left get right? The left are phenomenal at preference flow discipline. What do I mean by that? When you vote on a how to vote card, you guys know this, you number all the ballots 1 to 10, and your vote flows how you choose. Now, you guys are switched on, you know what you're doing. However, I remember the first time I voted about 9 to 10 years ago, 2015, and I remember going in, I was voting for Cory Bernardi's party at the time, now he's with One Nation. It was the Australian Conservative Party, and I said, I'm going to go for that party. Bam. Hang on. the ballot's telling me I've got to number the rest of the boxes. I don't know, I'll just throw in a few in. I still remember that mentality. That is what a lot of people that aren't switched on are doing, even to this day. So what does this end up doing in the election? Well, as you can see here, this shows you how many votes you will lose from when you eliminate candidates. So when you eliminate the first candidate, the votes end up flowing. In this case, the Libertarians were the first to get eliminated. Their votes flowed in a fairly crazy spread everywhere. The next party was an independent. Their votes got distributed. The next independent got distributed here. This was a UAP, I think? No, Trumpet of Patriots, former UAP. Their votes went everywhere. Look how many went to Labor. The biggest amount went to Labor. What's that about? Actually, that was One Nation. They went to One Nation, some went to Labor. And again, Liberals are still number one, they got the most. Eventually, you get to the last three parties. You've got Labor, you've got Liberal, and you've got the Greens, 1, 2, and 3. What happens next? One Nation in this particular seat gets eliminated. Look where all the votes go. You'd think they'd all go to Liberal. About 30 to 35%, maybe 40% go to Greens. Who's doing that? And going to Labor. This is not on, guys. This is not, we've got to start looking like a winning side. Now, I know you guys aren't doing it, but I need you guys to start volunteering for the great parties that you're going to hear from tonight, to hand out how to vote cards, to deal with this problem. This is the same problem as what Charlie was dealing with voter turnout, except it's slightly different. It's making sure that the people that aren't as switched on with where their preference flows, maybe they don't understand the system, here you go, here's a how to vote card. If you want smaller government, lower taxes, and cash back, here you go. Get around the policies of your party. And then the Liberals, when the Greens are eliminated, look at that efficiency. Look at that efficiency. Labor flips. Bam, they won the seat. Liberal on track, they were the number one. And then the last bit, the Greens come in, bam. This is the problem we are trying to solve in this country and in Victoria right now for this election. Be under no illusions, this election is one of the most important elections in our history. And the reason for that is, we've got Victoria, the second biggest state. New South Wales, the biggest state, is in 4 months after Victoria. It's in March. So your election's November 28. The New South Wales election is March 25. And guess who has to deal with that election if things go badly here? I've got to deal with it. That's my home state. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm fighting so hard. Not just because I have such a big family here and audience here, but because we are in this together. Because if Victoria falls, if New South Wales falls, what's going to happen in the federal election mid to late next year? That's why I would have said it exactly like that if I wasn't on stage. That is exactly why I am here. We are throwing everything we can at this, and I only ask that you do the same, that you get people around you activated, and that you listen to the projects that we're going to talk about here today. So moving on, and I'm going to race through these because I don't want to bore you. I would rather you hear from the parties and ask questions of them. What are the 8 projects that we're going to do? First one, very simple. On our website, we have the volunteer funnel. You put your name, your address, your email, and your phone number. We don't hold on to that. We will pass that to the parties that you would like to volunteer for. If you don't know how to connect with the parties, we've made it simple. There you go, bam. It's like passing a rugby ball. This will allow you to volunteer. You can say you can scrutineer. You can hand out pamphlets at train stations. You can put posters up. Whatever you want, you can put it in the form and we'll pass that to the party. And then it's up to the party to contact you. The next one is the policy matrix. If you're not sure what this is, I've actually got it on the side. You're welcome to have a look at it. The policy matrix is basically supposed to simplify the complex. I've got a PhD in simplifying the complex after all the elections we've fought. So what this shows you, this is from the South Australian election. We just fought that in March. This shows you all the policies on key issues like the economy, health, housing, agriculture, education, freedom and accountability. And if people put yes to these questions, that's what we stand for, and that's what a lot of our audience stand for, we will indicate it. And what you very quickly see is you see a situation where all the minor right parties are in alignment. So they should be preferencing each other, right? In fact, some might even say there should be one party. But no, I won't go there, I won't go. You guys can ask that in the Q&A. But you look at how Labor is letting us down. I mean, look at that. I mean, even the Greens have a better track record somehow. And so the policy matrix is designed to give you more value than the debate between the two leaders. I get nothing from that. I just kind of get a vibe, they're charismatic. This actually cuts the crap and it goes to the policies. What are they actually running on? And most importantly, it's not just what they say. We fact check it and we actually check their voting record and we see. They might say, oh yeah, we support ending net zero, but then the Liberals go and vote for it in the Parliament. Like we're not here to stuff around. The next project, number 3, transparency reports. This is my favourite. You basically put your address in and it tells you your Member of Parliament sins, how they voted in the last 4 years. What have they been up to? And so this is an example of Premier Malinauskas. All the red things are the things that we wouldn't have done if we were in his position. And it just shows you what he voted for. Like, for example, he voted for the First Nations Voice Bill. That's kind of useful to know. All this does is you put your address in and it'll spit out how they actually voted. Very handy tool, and in future elections we're going to be showing you what they've been spending their money on as well, how many private trips they've been doing. I think you deserve, I mean, hey, you're the boss of these guys. I know they may not make you feel like it, but you ought to know. That's right. The next one is the how to vote cards. So this basically, as I mentioned before, you put your address in, it'll spit out how to vote. If you're a Christian, if you're a conservative, if you agree with the values we had in the policy matrix, this is for you. And this is great because you can send it to anyone in your family and say, look, I don't know what area you're in, I don't know what the candidates are. Joel's done the research, him and his team have gone and looked at each candidate, point by point, their policies, here you go. And that's the thing, guys. I can stand up here, I can complain that people don't put as much time into this as I do. We have to meet people where they are at. We have to meet them where they're at. My sister's got 3 kids, she's got a 4th one on the way. She doesn't have time to look at the policies. She doesn't have time. She says, Joel, just send it to me. Just send me the card I'm meant to be using. There's a lot of people like that. So meet them where they're at. Just go out of your way. Again, you're the Spartan Warriors. You're the volunteers. You guys are on the cutting edge of this fight. Make it easy for them. Say, here, what's your address? I'll put it in for you and I'll send it. Bam, done. Send it to your family. Put it in the group chat. That's how we make change. That's what the socialists are doing. What's next? And this is what the how to vote card looks like. Important note, in your election, there's a thing called group voting tickets that have been eliminated, which I'm really happy about. I remember standing on this stage 4 years ago, and the footage of the do you remember that, Warren? Yeah. I remember we were standing at the back there with Rukshan, and the group voting tickets. Chris Burson, who's now running for One Nation in the West, is it Western Region? He was recording the preference whisper with Glenn Jury, and he dropped the story, and it went everywhere on news.com. What are the group voting tickets? It's kind of irrelevant now, but essentially, rather than you choosing where the votes go on the upper house, you're only able to do one, and then basically the party would submit a form called the group voting ticket, and they would pick where it went. And there was no transparency until, of course, we came out and we made graphics and showed where everything went. But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. Bless you. And so the group voting tickets are gone. They're gone, they're kabush. And now that they're gone, you have a voting system that's very similar to what you do federally. I like that, it's more consistent, it's less explaining. So you just number 1 to 6, is it, Warren, now? 1 to 6 still? Yeah, 1 to 6 on above the line. But it exhausts. For some reason I thought it was 1 to 5.
No, it's 1 to 5.
Is it 1 to 5? You guys can debate it on the stage. 1 to 5, 1 to 6. Yeah. And so when it comes to the next project, and I'm glad the group voting tickets are gone because it means the vote's with you. The only problem is that means the votes will be less efficient. It means you've got to number properly. You can't just cut it off. You've got to number all the way to the Liberals. The next one is the left to right party ranking. This is just a very simple graphic that we've made. This is for South Australia. If it's on the left, it means they love big government control, they attack religion, and they're a little ethically challenged, if you know what I mean. And if you're on the right, it means you want a smaller government out of your lives, you value freedom of speech and traditional values. So just a very simple graphic just to show people where we see everyone. The sixth project, we're almost there. This basically will show you which parties are preferencing who when it comes to their upper house how to vote card. The parties hate me doing this, but I have to do it. I want you to know which freedom parties and is the Liberal Party, are they preferencing each other? I want to encourage them strongly to do that because there's no reason they shouldn't be. They're running for the same issues. So this basically shows you who's preferencing who. The orange is the Liberal and the National Party, and the green are parties we like, right-wing parties. And then the red parties, you should never see a red party above a green or a orange party. You shouldn't be saying that. It's a socialist. And so that's what we basically, we've simplified it and we show you exactly how we numbered our card and basically how we expect the political parties to conduct themselves. So again, turning point, we're about cutting through the BS. We're about basically giving you the information so you can make the decision up on what you want to vote for and what you want in this country. I just don't like the smoke and mirror stuff. I don't like the BS. And I guess that's why we got involved in politics. The last project I'll tell you about, it's the volunteer training. It's conducting a lot of events like this around the state. I'll also be doing a lot of videos to show you how do you hand out a how to vote card. It's a bit of an art. You can't hand someone a piece of paper and say freedom, freedom, freedom. It doesn't work. You have to become laser focused. Who is this? It's a mother, she's got a child in the pram, she's got another screaming child next to her. What is the policy that my party is running for that in literally 3 seconds I can say, blurt out, and it might pique her interest? That's how you have to think. You don't have time for a soliloquy. You've got to nail it. And unfortunately, it means you've got to profile people. That's the reality. I'd like to hope, and I'll be the first to say this, if you see a Middle East guy that looks like me, you say, hey, lower taxes. Bring back cash. That's a good one. We all love cash. Hey, did you see that cash usage is going up for the first time in a few decades? That's people's power. That's people's power. Anyways, enough about cash. The 8th project, it's a mystery. I'll tell you when the time's right, but I think you'll like it. But guys, we're here to help. We're here to help. We're not tied to any political party. We are I couldn't believe this. I know I said it in the video, but I genuinely couldn't believe this. We're the only entity that actually fights local, state and federal elections in every state. You might say, oh, Liberal does that, Labor does that. They actually don't. They don't run candidates as branded candidates in local elections. And this seems mad to me. If you're not fighting local elections, how are you going to win a state election? If you're not fighting state elections, how are you going to win a federal election? All politics is local, and we're about building up momentum because that's exactly what Labor do, that's exactly what the Greens do, and the Socialists do. They cut their teeth on local elections and then they build up. And so, other than that, I think you've heard enough from me. But I just want to say that I really appreciate you all coming out. This particular campaign has some amazing people behind it, and we can only do as much as we're able to fundraising-wise. The electoral laws here in terms of funding are very strict, and it's made it quite difficult for us to help Victorians. So please, if you can, even if it's $5, it helps. They've got these caps, and we can't just have one wealthy benefactor just come in and say, here, I love what you're doing, I don't want any influence, here you go. We can't actually do that. And that means that we need lots of little donations in order to fund this. And that's exactly why they change the laws. They leave loopholes for the unions and the other groups, but they don't want to keep Turning Point Australia and other groups out. And so if you can support, I really appreciate it. But without further ado, I'm going to flick this picture up again for the questions. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have. We're now going to hear from each of the political parties that are coming up. But the first one we've got to cover is someone who unfortunately couldn't make it, Anne-Marie Hermans. She basically is in the Parliament voting right now against, I think, some Aboriginal bill or something, an important bill. And unfortunately, she couldn't actually make it out, but she did send us a video because this is her area.
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Hermans. I represent the Southeastern Metropolitan Region for the Liberal Party. I was hoping to be able to meet with you tonight, but it's a sitting week and we're still sitting. So welcome to Parliament House and to my office. And hello to all my friends from the Southeast who might be gathering there tonight. Joel Jamal, I'm really sorry I didn't get an opportunity to meet with you. I look forward to meeting you in the future. Take care, everyone.
Yes, so unfortunately Anne-Marie was the Liberal candidate. I can't believe they couldn't find someone to send out that wasn't a Member of Parliament, but that's all right. We're going to do a number of events in the future, and I don't apologise for what the other candidates will say without Liberals here. But regardless, I'd like to now invite Ash from the Libertarian Party, if he's here. There he is, he's at the back. Now, similarly, David Limbrick, he's also fighting a good fight in the Parliament. He's got a phenomenal voting record, by the way. David is also stuck in the Parliament as well, but he's a phenomenal staffer. Ash knows everything about the policy. You've often got to brief people. And are you running this election?
No, not for me.
Not this time. You've done it enough. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Ash, please.
Thanks, Joel, and thanks for Turning Point for inviting me to fill in for David and for hosting this. It's fantastic to see so many people coming out to be involved in politics. I think during COVID we really saw kind of a awakening up of people. People realised how much the government could intrude in their lives and that there just wasn't the possibility to stay idle. People needed to be active. So thank you for being here. My name's Ash. I'm David's Chief of Staff. I've worked for him pretty much since he was elected in 2018, but I've known him a little bit longer. When I applied to work in his office, I wasn't a member of the Libertarian Party. I was somebody who knew David, who knew his integrity, his intelligent approach to policy, and I thought that he would make a great Member of Parliament, and I wanted to work for him. Now I'm a bit of a radical libertarian because I saw what happened during COVID. But what I'll do, I'll just run through a little bit of David's track record and some of his time in Parliament, so you can get a bit of a picture of the kind of person he is, the kind of party that the Libertarian Party is, and why you should support the best Member of Parliament being returned. So one of the first battles that we fought in Parliament was in 2019, and it seems like an obscure thing, but it was a bill to create a registration system for engineers. It was completely pointless. We don't have any bridges falling down. Engineers are highly experienced and qualified. It was just another nonsense bit of legislation to create a new bureaucracy that was going to increase cost and increase compliance for the sector. But it's important to fight these fights, even if nobody in the public knows that they're going on. When David was elected, all Libertarian candidates make a pledge. They make a pledge to never vote for an increase in taxes or a decrease in liberty. And the Libertarian Party is the only party represented in the Victorian Parliament that has a perfect track record of never voting for an increase in taxes, and if re-elected, will continue to do so. What we didn't know in 2019, that we were on the eve of the biggest expansion of state power that any of us have ever seen in our lifetimes. And I imagine many of you might be familiar with David and the Libertarians from that time. there was a lot of timidity in politics. You had the entire media and political class essentially telling you to comply. And we didn't think that was a good idea. David is a bit of a shy person, naturally, but when it came to COVID, he had to find the courage to go out there on the street, to stand with the protesters, to stand up against what all of society were telling us we needed to do, for moral and compassionate reasons. In our office, we had the calls from people. We had the calls from women who had been sexually assaulted and couldn't wear a face mask. And all we asked from the government and from the chief health officer is, could you moderate your language a little bit and encourage people not to demonise people who aren't wearing a face mask, because some of those people have a bloody good reason for not doing so.
That's right.
So the last term of Parliament was really dominated by COVID, and David Limbrick, his colleague Tim Quilty and the Libertarian Party were on the front line of opposing that radical expansion of state power, the suppression, the imposition of people's rights. But there were other things that happened in the last term as well. 2019, we saw the start of restrictions on climbing out in the Grampians. And this was for really sort of nonsense reasons that there was supposed to be Aboriginal artefacts in every little bit of everything, and it just simply wasn't true. David turned up to the inaugural meeting of the Australian Climbing Association, and this trend continued on through to this term of Parliament with restrictions in land access. There was a real culture in parts Victoria to essentially go super woke and restrict access to land, try and limit what people could do on their own public land. It's your land. And through David's fierce advocacy on that issue, in late 2024, the CEO of Parks Victoria was stood down, and the government realised they needed a new approach. They went back to the drawing board. It took way too long to get there, but they ran an 18-month consultation process and landed on what is a pretty good compromise, where the Mount Arapiles, one of the most famous climbing areas in the world, is shared amongst the different user groups, including the Indigenous people. And as this was happening, our party also organised several public rallies to oppose more national parks, because the national parks tend to be just an excuse to restrict more access to land. And it was also indicative of what would happen with treaty. David was one of the first politicians to come out opposing what was happening with treaty, and it's not because we have any issue with Indigenous people. It's wonderful that we have this deep cultural history of Indigenous culture in this land. But it created a massive new bureaucracy, created a two-tiered system where there's different rights for different people. Now, our party is fundamentally based on individual rights. So we value each person's ability to make choices for their own lives. That's at the heart of everything we do. Another one of the debates that came up in the last term of Parliament, and in some ways has continued on to now, was a piece of legislation called the Change and Suppression Bill. What the government said that it was about was trying to restrict this kind of myth that there were people electric shocking gay people out of being gay, which wasn't really happening, and that's not what the bill did. What the bill did was criminalised consensual conversations between adults and their spiritual leader. And it also created a culture of fear amongst mental health professionals. And we've heard this now from psychologists that treat youth. As soon as they bring up anything to do with gender confusion, that's it, they don't want to touch it, because they're scared that if they do anything other than the radical gender stuff, they're going to get in trouble. So it means that, we have poor treatment of mental health amongst kids, and we have this culture of fear and silence amongst the mental health profession. We were the first party to come out opposing that. And that really created a situation that we started to learn a bit more about what was going on with this radical gender politics, and became very invested in the impacts that it's having on children, the impacts that it's having on women being able to control their own spaces, and the impacts that it's having on schools, where to some extent schools were essentially hiding what was going on with children from their parents, and subverting the role of parents. And one of the things that David and his office was successful in doing was the first large mainstream media documentary on detransitioners that featured on Spotlight. That's been seen by over 1 million people. What most people don't realise, we made that happen, we placed that. We helped the journalists find the people that featured in that documentary. It wouldn't have happened without David Limbrick there. David also initiated an inquiry into nuclear power in the last term of Parliament. Give me about now? Oh, geez, okay. Sorry, I should have put a timer up. There's a lot of things to talk about in David's track record. Let me just speedily run through the rest of my list and we can get to the rest of it in Q&A. Initiated an inquiry into nuclear power, hosted the first protest in support of nuclear power in Victorian history, was the first MP to come out and oppose the anti-vilification laws that the government put through, which was an attack on free speech, which is a critical issue for libertarians. Popularised pepper spray and castle law, the right to self-defence and the tools to do so. For years, David has been the only politician talking about the real incentives behind organised crime, the excessive federal excise on tobacco, the prohibition of vaping, and many more issues. I will leave it there. David has been one of the most hardworking and fiercest politicians in the Victorian Parliament. Even if the Libertarians aren't for you, here in the southeast, I highly encourage you to make sure that David Limbrick is returned.
And yes, David is running in the southeast metro region, and phenomenal track record, really good. Make sure you include him in your preferences, top 4. The next one we've got is from, who is next? Jane Fuller. Jane is the chair of Familv First. Please welcome her on the stage.
Good evening, everyone. So wonderful to be here, and thank you so much, Joel, for a turning point for bringing us all together. Because we all understand that Victoria desperately needs a change of direction. It's time for this Labor government to go, and we have to do everything within our power to make sure it happens. My name is Jane Foreman. I've been married to Shane for 40 years. Yay! And I'm the mother of 3 adopted children. I'm the chair of Familv First Familv First here in Victoria, and I'm also the Familv First candidate for the Southeastern Metropolitan Region at this November election. I do just want to acknowledge David Limbrick. He has been an incredibly hard-working politician. I've watched him closely, I've seen the work he's done, and he has done a phenomenal job in this region. So thank you to David. And also to Anne-Marie. She's been a hard-working politician as well in this area, taking up local issues, crossing the floor when she's needed to against the Liberal Party. So thank you to Anne-Marie as well. So because of my family, the word family is not an abstraction to me. It's not merely a political slogan. Family is where love becomes duty, where sacrifice becomes normal, and where the next generation learns what it needs to belong. Tonight we've sort of heard from the Liberals a little bit, maybe, I'm not sure, and we've heard from Ashley, and we're going to hear from Warren as well, and myself. So there's a great deal upon which we can agree. Victoria cannot afford another 4 years of uncontrolled debt, rising taxes, unreliable and increasingly expensive energy, deteriorating public safety, ideological capture of our institutions, and government interference in the rights of parents, churches and faith-based schools. So I think we can all agree on that. The parties here represented tonight are not the real enemy. The real enemy is the political culture that has forgotten truth, responsibility, and the proper limits of government. If we agree on so much, you may reasonably ask, why does Family First exist? The answer is found in our name. Family First is not simply another party trying to occupy somewhere on the political spectrum. We begin with a distinctive first principle. The family is not merely another policy portfolio, it is the load-bearing wall of a healthy society. The Liberals traditionally begin with good government and economic opportunity. One nation begins with national sovereignty and Australian identity. The Libertarians begin with individual liberty and limited government. Each of those concerns have value. But Family First begins one step earlier, with the institution that raises the individual, sustains the community, passes on the nation's inheritance, and makes limited government possible. But before there was a government department, there were mothers and fathers caring for children. Before there was a welfare system, families, churches and communities cared for neighbours in need. Before a child encountered a teacher, bureaucrat or political ideology, that child belonged to a family. Government cannot manufacture loyalty, love, duty, self-control or sacrifice. Bad government can weaken the institutions that produce them. This is why Family First asks one basic question of every policy and every piece of legislation. Will this strengthen families or will it weaken them? First, we are prepared to tell the truth about family. We believe marriage is between one man and one woman that provides a better foundation. We believe children should, wherever possible, enjoy the love and protection of their own mother and father. This does not mean disrespecting single parents, widows, blended families, adoptive families, or people whose lives have not followed those things. My own family has been built through adoption. Compassion for people facing difficult circumstances does not require society to abandon the ideal. In fact, compassion needs an ideal towards where we can help people. Family First will promote marriage, support parents, and recognise that children are not accessories to adult fulfilment. They are human beings with interests and rights of their own. Second, Family First believes that freedom requires foundations. We stand firmly for freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, and freedom of association. Government should not and must not dictate what Australians must believe, say, or pray. Faith-based schools should be free to teach their faith and employ people willing to uphold their ethos. Medical professionals should not be compelled to act against their consciences. Parents should remain the primary educator and guardians of their children. We agree with our libertarian friends that government must get out of people's pockets and stop trying to control every part of their lives. But Family First adds something essential. Freedom cannot survive without responsibility, virtue and truth. Freedom is not simply the absence of restraint. In society in which everyone demands personal autonomy while nobody accepts responsibility, will eventually produce disorder, and disorder becomes the excuse for even more government. Strong families cultivate the character that makes freedom possible: responsibility, work, forgiveness, self-control, concern for neighbours, and sacrifice for the next generation. This is how strong families make smaller government possible. Third, Family First stands for the dignity of every human life. We believe human life should be protected from conception until natural death. And that means supporting expectant mothers so that no frightened woman believes adoption is her only option. It means providing adoption, properly funding pregnancy support, and ensuring that women receive genuinely informed choices. It means protecting unborn children capable of feeling pain, providing medical care to babies born alive following an attempted abortion, and defending the freedom of conscience of health professionals. At the end of life, it means properly funding palliative care rather than allowing death to become the cheapest treatment the state can offer. Every person possesses dignity because human life has value, and every single person is made in the image and likeness of God. Fourth, Family First will defend children and biological reality. There are two sexes. Women's sports must remain for women. Girls' spaces must remain safe. Children experiencing confusion deserve compassionate support, not political activism or a medical pathway that can potentially give lifelong consequences. It's absolutely shocking. We should fight to end medicalised gender interventions on minors and insist that parents are informed about what is happening to their children. Our schools should be teaching children how to read, write, reason and understand our history. They should not undermine parents or teach children to distrust their own bodies. We can treat every person with dignity while still telling the truth. Respecting someone never requires the government to deny biological reality. Fifth, Family First brings the family test to economic policy. Economic policy is not ultimately about spreadsheets in Treasury. It's about what happens around the Victorian Christian tables. Can a young couple afford a home? Can parents afford another child? Can a family business employ one more person without being punished by tax and regulation? Can an elderly person afford to heat their home? And can families keep more of what they earn? Family First supports enterprise, home ownership, family business and fiscal responsibility. We want unnecessary red tape and green tape removed and government debt brought under control. Victoria needs affordability and reliable energy. That means the ending of the ideological assault on dependable power and responsibility using the resources and technology available to us. Families should not be forced to pay for electricity so politicians can boast about targets that place our businesses, industries, farms and energy security at risk. We also believe in subsidiarity. Decisions should be made as close as possible to the people affected by them. The family should do what the family can do. Communities, churches and voluntary organisations should do what they can do. Local institutions should be empowered. Only then should the state intervene. This is not merely small government as a slogan, it is government restored to its proper place as servant, not master. Family First is also proudly Australian. We believe in our Judeo-Christian inheritance, democratic freedoms and common national identity are worth preserving. Yes. Migrants are welcomed into a confident Australian culture, not into a country being taught to be ashamed of itself. But Australia is not merely land, government or an economy. A nation has an inheritance passed from one generation to another. And preserving that inheritance begins with strengthening the families entrusted to pass it on. At November's election, Family First is working to elect principled representatives to Victoria's upper house. An upper house representative can scrutinise legislation, expose government overreach, and when the numbers are close, determine whether a bad bill becomes law. But electing representatives are not the only reason to put Family First on your ballot paper. Your number one vote is counted first for Family First. It helps us win representation now, and where a Family First candidate or upper house group reaches the required 4% of first preference votes, those votes can help the party qualify for public campaign funding under Victorians, I might say, draconian rules. That strengthens our ability to communicate our message, support principal candidates, and build an enduring political voice for families, life, faith and freedom. But there's also another consequence. Family First vote changes the political incentives of every party, even in this room. The major parties study first preferences very carefully. They watch where support is growing, which issues motivate voters and what they must do to win those voters back. When you put family first, you send an unmistakable message. Parental rights matter, human life matters, religious freedom matters, biological reality matters, affordable energy and family finances matter. These are not fringe concerns, they are electoral priorities. So even if Family First is not elected in mass this election, your number one vote is never wasted. In our preferential system, putting family first does not prevent your vote from continuing according to the applicable preference rules if our candidate is excluded. But your first preference remains recorded for Family First. It helps us win where we can, strengthens our ability to contest future elections, and encourages every other party on the conservative side of politics to take family-minded votes more seriously. A strong Family First vote can therefore produce more conservative and family-friendly politics beyond the representative elected under our own name. Sorry. Vote 1 Family First helps elect us, helps us build and helps us move whole political conversation in a more family-friendly direction. Once elected, Family First representatives will ask of every bill, does it respect parents? Does it protect children and human life? Does it preserve speech, freedom of speech, religion and conscience? Does it strengthen family finances or load families with more debt and expense? Does it uphold public safety and biological reality? If legislation passes those tests, we will work constructively with anyone represented here tonight. If it fails those tests, we will have the courage to oppose it, regardless of which party introduced it. Family First does not need to replace every other party represented tonight. But if the Victorian Parliament desperately needs clarity, courage and moral compass, then a Family First representative would bring that. So are we conservative? If conservatism means conserving the institutes that government cannot recreate once it has destroyed them, family, marriage, life, faith, freedom, responsibility and our national inheritance, then yes, Family First is unapologetically conservative. But we're not merely interested in preserving the past. We are fighting to restore the foundations upon which Victoria's future depends. Victoria does not simply need a different government. It needs a different direction. It needs parents respected, children protected, life defended, truth spoken, enterprise released, debt controlled, and government returned to its proper limits. Because when families are strong, communities become resilient. When communities are resilient, government can become smaller. And when government is limited, responsible and accountable freedom can flourish. This is a distinct contribution of Family First. Family is not just one among many. Family is where the future begins. Stronger families, a stronger Victoria.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for that, Jane. And I'm going to flick this up one last time before we get to the Q&A, and we've got one last party. Could you please welcome Warren Pickering from One Nation? Mate, I'm getting PTSD from 4 years ago.
Yeah, roger that. And Jill already given me the hurry up. I absolutely love it. Look, firstly, I want to thank the Polish House for again allowing us to utilise this fantastic venue. Also, I'd like to thank Peterine for hosting, as she always does in these venues. She's really helped out in a lot of different ways. I'd like to thank Joel not only for coming down, but also for always being the best dressed man in the room and making the rest of us feel inadequate. But more importantly, I'd like to thank Charlie Kirk and the legacy of common sense that he leaves behind. He truly established, not unlike Senator Pauline Hanson herself, has truly established a vehicle that can become a catalyst for change. And I think that's important to remember. That's what we're trying to achieve here. Drastic change that is actually required in order to save not only our state, but our country. We all know it, we can feel it intuitively. Now, I'll do a little bit of an interactive first because I'd like to know my audience. I know I already do because I've spoken here many times and I know many of your faces from the last 5 years at the various events that we've done. Now, opportunity to stretch your legs as well. Everybody stand up for a second, stretch it out. What's that? Sorry?
It's not David.
I'll take that because Mr. Limbrick is a brilliant man, so that's fine. Alright, stretch it out now. Now, here's where the interactive starts. Everybody sit down that's not a member of a political party.
Yeah. That's not a minute. Sorry.
So we're at about 50%. Alright, thanks guys, everyone sit down. This is important. It's about knowing your audience, and this fits in line with what Joel's trying to achieve as well. We need to coordinate our effort. Most people in this room are only politically astute enough to not only know how they're voting, but likely who they're volunteering for. Now that's an important distinction to make. I'm not going to stand up here and try and speak to you to try and get your vote, to try and vote for me. I don't give a damn about that. It's never been about that for us, especially here in Victoria. I ran on the Senate ticket in 2022 when I knew we were a 1% party. We did that because we need to keep doing this. Courage is contagious, guys, and we need to not only be courageous ourselves, we need to inspire those around us to be courageous. That's where you guys come in. That's what Joel's trying to build here. And there's never been a better time than now, let's be honest. There's never been more appetite for family-oriented conservative values in this country than there is right now. And this is what it takes. Now, I know some people are only tentatively endorsed, but for any party here, put your hand up if you're about to be an endorsed candidate or if you're an endorsed candidate for any of these parties. Give those people a round of applause, guys. That is absolutely what it takes. Now, we can coordinate our efforts. The group voting ticket's gone. It was an absolute subversion of the democratic process. We know it was. Now, that is gone. We can work together. We can preference each other internally. And if that other, I'm not here to slap them around, but if that other larger Conservative Party in blue, they want to continue to treat us with public disdain, our collective vote between the Libertarians, Familv First and One Nation will force them to come to the bargaining table. This is far too important, and we will not allow hubris to have our state taken from us and placed back into the hands of the socialists for another 4 years. Now, I know everybody's waiting to get to the Q&A, so I will just hurry it along and get there rather than espouse all of the One Nation Party policy positions, because I'm sure you're all very familiar with them. That's one of the relevant things about consistency and continuity of messaging for 30 damn years, isn't it? So we'll maintain our position, we'll work together, we'll do the right thing to take this state back. Suffice to say, Labor government, this dangerous Labor Greens government in Victoria, they have failed by every conceivable metric with the Victorian people with regard to the social contract, all right? So our intentions are simple. Victorians are not asking for much. We intend to restore trust, safety and prosperity. That's the crux of it. Victoria used to be the crown in the jewel. Is that the other way around? See, I'm not a poly. The jewel in the crown of Australia's gross domestic product, and we will be again. That is absolutely something that we can be. We are not going to adopt a defeatist attitude. We're going to fight, and we're going to take our bloody state back. We've endorsed real people from the real world, all right? Now, this is where you're going to have trouble to convince people that have traditionally voted one way or another, or that are still intending to vote for a major party, or whatever else they are doing. Because we are not polished. If they want differently, if Victorians want meaningful change, they have to vote differently. They have to vote for people that look differently, that speak differently. Because we're not them. We're not the polished pollies. At the end of the day, most of our candidates, we've got dirt under our nails, calloused hands and sunspots on our head from the toil of our labour. We've had a gutful of being told that those on Spring Street have got the credentials to manage an economy and determine the way that the rest of us must endure our lives. That prove they are incapable of either. We want government to allow our kids to be kids and get out of our schools. Get off our farms, get out of our business, get out of our pockets, and get out of our lives. So get behind any of these parties here tonight, guys, and we will absolutely work together. Now, get behind either of these parties or the One Nation Party. I will have that bias, and I do have to say that. But we are coming, guys, make no mistake. We are moving and we are coming. And starting with Victoria, we are coming to take this country back. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Warren Pickering, not David Lincoln. Someone from My Nation's going to call me up and say, "What was that?" Sorry guys, rushed. Ladies and gentlemen, you have some of the funniest questions on that. I'm going to knock one of them out. Do you think that Warren should be clean shaven or keep the beard? It was the second highest question. Put your hand up if you think you should be clean shaven. The beard? Put your hand up the beard. There you go, mate. There you go. The beard stays. The beard stays. There we go. Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to quickly say, and I hate to do this, but we have to pause for 5 minutes to get ready for the Q&A. If you would like to go to the bathroom, it is outside and to the right. And there's also food, which is literally back there as well in that back room. Yeah, go for it.
The food is awesome. It's Polish sausages, Polish dumplings, donuts, beautiful cakes, coffee and tea. And these ladies, we only warned them yesterday. But they have enough food for 200 people. So please do go and give them some business.
Guys, we'll be back at about 8 o'clock. I'll see you in a bit. And please vote on the questions.
I'm good.